Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TechGeek podcast on being a developer in the experienced era. I'm your host, Supriti Alivanshi. Hope all of you are staying safe. Today, in our special episode of the podcast, I have four immensely knowledgeable powerhouses from Cognizant who will talk about the world's largest coding battle, TechGeek Code Gladiators, and what it takes to be a developer in our current era of tech innovations. Without much ado, I will hand over the session to Karthik Padmanabhan, Associate Vice President Digital Experience from Cognizant.
Thank you, and welcome to the Code Gladiators podcast. Code Gladiators is the biggest virtual coding event in the world, organized by TechGeek. Today, we'll chat about what it takes to be a developer in our current era. My name is Karthik Padmanabhan, and I'm the Global Competency Leader for Digital Experience Services in Cognizant. Being a consultant for most of my career, I now take great pride in leading a diverse team of designers, marketeers, content specialists, and technologists in crafting exceptional experiences for our customers. Being a developer today is very super exciting, at the same time incredibly challenging. There are changing technologies, high customer expectations, need for quality and speed. Being agile also means working with evolving requirements all the time. But more than ever, AI/ML, NLP, code-generated technologies suggest that development will undergo a radical shift. To discuss all of this, I have three software technologists from Cognizant who will share their experiences and tell us how their company is supporting them in managing these changes. Welcome to the podcast, Senthil, Diti, and Chandan. Senthil, I'm going to turn to you first. Give us a quick experience about yourself. Tell us about your background, and then tell us about your journey and what change you've noticed over the last 6-7 years in the era of changing technologies and development and so on.
Hi, KP. Good morning. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Senthil, and I'm a senior digital architect taking care of the solutions and business development for Cognizant in the front-end space and content production. I have spent my last decade in designing and developing omni-channel, cross-channel, low-code platform applications for various industries across tech stacks. That's the short intro. And coming to your question, KP, I probably would, answer this question in a broader bucket, actually, right? I wanted to break this into 2 decades, starting 2000 to 2010. The way I saw the industry was it's especially the front-end space, right? It was all about legacy, multi-page applications, server-side applications, right? Like client-server applications, and primarily about Java versus, .NET sort of applications, where the web world was pretty simple and not too many choices, but it was struggling with the age-old XML, JSP, servers, server shuttling time, slow queries, and performance issues were there actually, right? Whereas the mobile came in late 2000, where the mobile space evolved. Along with that, the web space also evolved actually. So fundamentally, when we started, we were building the mobile applications using the native technologies for Android and iOS, and even we had the Windows Phone back then actually. But the last 10 years, it was really exciting period for both web and mobile development. The decade has changed the whole way the industry thinks, from the application user experience perspective to the performance, automation to modular development, to cater the various segments of end users across domains and platforms actually. So the industry moved from server-side applications to a lightweight, efficient, faster client-side applications through single-page applications. Earlier, we used to have multiple applications to support desktop web, mobile web, and then we used to have native applications for mobiles and desktop. But whereas now everything is scattered through single application, right? It could be a native app which is built on low-code platforms. The concepts like write once, run everywhere is the mantra across the industry. Whereas it comes to hybrid world, we can do an RWD or a progressive web application, bringing the concepts of modular UI applications or modular microservice applications. We have now we name the applications in too many ways: mobile first, desktop first. There's a lot of way based on the purpose and the audience, we segment the applications. So I would say the last 10 years was a golden period for both mobile and web, where the technology moved from the silo of Java to Java versus .NET to a huge spectrum. The rise of Java framework and libraries, right, that made this possible, the omni-channel application development across platforms and channels actually. Also, along with that, I have to mention that like the UX space, right, like the design thinking also evolved in the last 10 years, which made the user attracted towards their application, right? The experience that they get like through their desktop and phones and their mobile applications, that has been exceptional in the last 10 years. Like that again goes thanks to the libraries like jQuery, Bootstrap, which made that possible actually. On the other hand, this huge spectrum also posted a huge challenge in front of both the service industry providers as well as the developers, because moving away from Java to .NET to just fighting their own battle within JavaScript libraries, where we have quite a lot of JavaScript libraries evolved for different reasons actually. We have Angular, then which moved to TypeScript. We had React.js. We had like Google releasing Flutter, and like we had Vue.js. There's quite a lot of Node.js, like quite a lot of Java framework libraries have come in actually, and that has become a challenge. One side. The other hand, we also had this MADP, the mobile application development platform. There as well, like we had quite a lot of options, right? Like because most of the MADPs comes with what you see, what you get, edited sort of live preview tools and a lot of things for make the mobile application development life easy actually. So though the final verdict is all about like Angular versus React, but like we have quite a lot of options and actually. So that posted a huge challenge. So in my view, the last 6-7 years, how do I see? I see this more of a JS framework era with respect to front-end space. The back-end space is all about like cloud, moving into cloud, and then like serverless architecture. The database side, if you look at it, like how that evolved, like moving from the structured query language to moving into an NoSQL databases like Mongo, or like or like we move into the Firebase sort of NoSQL databases. So that's how I see, and this is a golden period for both mobile and web application, if you ask.
Thank you, Senthil. That really seems like a hyper dynamic evolution, so many changes. I guess it's probably both exciting and challenging at the same time as a profile. So let's really get into a developer persona and see what it takes to be a developer, right? Deepti, I'm going to ask you to delve on it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and then take us into the minds of a developer and talk about what it really takes to be a developer in the modern day. Just tell us a little bit, Deepti, about yourself, and then let's get into the question.
Yeah, sure, KP. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. This is Deepti Sundaram, and I'm a technology architect and have been associated in this industry for the past 13 years. I work on providing design and development solutions for omni-channel customer experience. I have supported clients across different domains like banking, retail, and healthcare, and worked on different challenging technologies. Now, when we look at the modern day developers, what are the expectations? What makes them think, okay, this technology seems interesting, let me start using it? The first and the most important thing, I would say, is the simplicity. The young developers expect the technology to be simple and easy to learn. Most of them, while they are in their college or in their early phases of career development, make use of self-learning platforms to familiarize themselves with the modern day technologies. They want to learn the latest technology in a short span of time and start creating simple applications applying whatever they have learned. We were just discussing about how there are so many different technologies available in the market today to create a web application. The same web application can be created by using Angular or React or Vue. There are so many other options available as well. So what would a budding developer want to explore? Maybe as a young developer, I would explore by building the application in different technologies and try to get the flavor of it, and then decide on what I would like to focus on or what would be the ideal fit for my interest and expertise. With the guidance from self-learning platforms, it might seem easier to apply the new concepts you have learned. But when it comes to trying something by yourself without proper guidance, things get really complicated and challenging. So as a young developer, the typical challenges they face will be understanding the user and the priorities of the user. To begin with, it will be hard for them to understand how to approach a problem in customer experience, say. Along with that, they will lack knowledge on how to debug the code. The greatest challenge will be keeping up with the technology itself. Frameworks, tools, and libraries become outdated really quickly. For example, front-end frameworks usually last for a year or two before new updated versions come along. In such situation, it will be challenging for them to keep up with the latest version of technologies.
Thank you, Deepthi. That was definitely useful to get an understanding of what a developer needs to understand. Hey, Chandan, I'm going to welcome you into the podcast. Tell us a little about yourself, give us an intro, and then tell us, how does Cognizant help you in facing up to these challenges?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, KP. Hi, everyone. My name is Chandan Lakhoju. Been part of Cognizant for more than 15 years now, and with overall experience of more than 17 years in the industry. I come from a background of building applications for mobile, web, and for tablet. We started with web, to be honest, and then we moved on to be omni-channel. Then taking care of all those different vagaries, let it be from IE 6, 7, 8 to the latest edge now. So we've come a long way, focused on more on doing how businesses have evolved and how we build and modernize our UI solutions. That's my overall portfolio. KP, a very interesting question, what you posted me, how does Cognizant help us in facing these new challenges? And like one of my colleagues already pointed out, Senthil, that it's been a roller coaster ride for the last 10 years. We've seen a lot of shift, a lot of a beautiful paradigm shift in the way customer trends have changed over the years. As we have already seen technology evolving on a constant and rapid pace, at least even in the web industry, I think our space probably changes every night. So that is how it's been. It's been so evolving at times. And the fact is that keep up with that, Cognizant has done a great job. I think we've done and taken so many initiatives. It helps our young developers to make sure they are aligned to the future trends. Start with some of them which I think add up to generic trends across the globe is in other industries as well is look at the global online platform, right? One of them being Udemy and another one being Pluralsight. Cognizant in itself has given every associate a medium to join Udemy free of cost. It's a continuous learning program. Every associate has access to it. They can take care of it and they can make sure they use it and upgrade any skill they want. So that is one primary thing which we've done. And more challenges come by. We've also taken more initiatives, just not looking at Udemy as a platform where someone talks and we listen and try and absorb. I think what we've taken is we've taken a core tech team within our space, a lot of tech talks which we handle. We've taken a lot of seniors who've taken different topics and they've done it to different customers. So best practices across different customers and different industries. Let it be banking, let it be insurance. So we've done a lot of talks. A lot of tech talks. Tech talks are nothing but technical topics on a given subject. Let it be the latest one of GraphQL or Redux, React Redux API, which is the latest thing which came by. Or the evolving thing, the future things, like WebRTC, that is web real-time communication. How does communication happens over the web? I think we've seen a trend as well, right? We've seen just user talking and looking at things or interacting with a web page. I think that's evolved. WebRTC is another step level where you're doing video and real-time video communication, right? So that's another topic which you've seen grown. There's so many other topics like that, right? So talks is something which Cognizant does. That's been really a big hit, and seen a lot of young generation come and ask more questions and take more insight on these topics. And this has been aligned to the business trends as well. So when we've seen certain business trends come by, we've seen the experts in the business areas to come by and expose their knowledge and their learnings, and that really helps our associates grow further. Some more things like seminars and webinars and project connects, which we do on a periodic basis. These are things which help people understand how to not only learn a technology or know a technology, but how do I fit that technology in the current business trend? So when a business problem comes into picture, which technology to pick, which is the latest thing which comes by. So those are the things which we have actually done, part of seminars and webinars, which are done on a periodic basis at Cognizant. I think there's some more things which we have done, looking at these evolving architectural patterns, the microservices, the CI/CD, the JS frameworks, like we already spoke. So many frameworks came into picture, right? We've taken those, we've seen the best practices which come by, and we've done some case studies, and we've shared them across to all our associates so that they understand the specific. There's no common solution which fits everything, which we all understand, but we still have seen some practices like best execution practices, like let's suppose Scrum, which is followed as a standard in most of our business or in most of our project executions. We've seen such things, and we've taken that, we've seen the success story of those. Then how best we can actually train our associates on those patterns so that our execution model is quicker, faster. So when a young associate comes in, Cognizant makes sure it gives you the overall environment, from learning, Udemy, to talks, to seminars, to actual project executions, to periodic webinars. These all help the Gen Z, or we call it the Gen Z, the Generation Next. Cognizant. We do this all to make sure we build the demand and supply gap, and ensure we're all aligned to our common goal, to making sure we make our customers happy. Back to you, KP.
That's good to see, Chandan. I mean, that's glad to see that, the organization is, putting in the right infrastructure, getting the right technologies, getting the right support for some of this young generation to make sure that, all of these changing, evolving technologies are being understood and then applied when we start delivering to our customers. However, the other question that really springs to my mind right now is we've been speaking a lot about technology, and we're speaking about how there are changes in that area. But the question that is in the back of our mind suddenly, because we're talking about development in what we call as an experience era, right? So the question that springs to my mind is, do we really need to understand user behavior? Do we have to talk about customer experience? Do we need to do developers, right? So people who are actually developing engineering, is it sufficient if they understand more about technologies and so on? Or do they also have to get into the minds of the consumers who they are going to be eventually serving, the products that they're building, how that is going to be used? So the question in the back of my mind is, do developers need to understand customer and user behavior? Is that even important? Senthil, what do you think, right? Do you think if the focus on technology is good enough for a developer, or do you feel that they need to really get into the minds of users, or should we leave that to somebody else, right? What do you think we should be doing? So dwell on that, Senthil, and if you feel that, product managers, product owners should take care of that, whilst developers focus on what they need to be doing, that's a good enough philosophy as well. What do you feel? Give us your thoughts around it. Senthil, you might be on mute. Do you want to quickly see whether, can you check that out? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, KP. Apologies. Yeah.
No worries.
You're right. You're exactly right, right? Like, as a developer, if I'm just starting my career right now, my 2 cents would be like, concentrate more on our the technology aspects. Whereas the customer user behavior, the platform choices, these are the areas that some of our best minds like UX strategists and digital architects can take care of it actually. But as a developer, there are more pressing key factors that they need to understand, right, as they start their career. One, anytime they join a project, anytime they start a new application development, they should just understand the purpose of the application. So that's the very bottom of it. And then they need to understand the audience segment that they're going to cater, and the journey involved in the application. These are the areas that they have to understand before they get into any kind of development, because these are the resultant of this is like who is the audience, that determines the ease of the application, the feature richness and the complexity and modularity of the application. These are the stuff decides that actually. So like fundamentally, I would say the developer should be spending more or learning more about the basics, right? Like one is the technology aspect, other is like from the other side of it is like whom we are building and what are we building and who it's going to cater and what journey it is going to have, and that that tells us the outcome, right? How easy the application going to be, what features I have to have, and should I do it like in a modular way, in a complex way, or if it is for, for an example, if you're building an application for a senior citizen, then like, we should just, ensure that like we keep a very simple lean application so that it's easy for them to use actually. So like, the purpose and the segment of audience and the user journey, that's something they need to understand on top of, the technology aspect. Whereas the user behavior, the personas, and like, those other aspects can be taken care by the business owners and product owners and the strategist actually. On top of that, what I would say is like the developer should, in the early stages, they should be like, spending more time learning the importance of, lean coding, pair programming, how to do modular development, right? Make sure that like, I encapsulate my code, which can be plugged in anywhere within the application, right? So the modularity has become key actually. From the customer perspective, modularity, reusability, extensibility, readability of your application, these are the areas I would say the developer should concentrate, and as long as possible, like, keep it simple, right? That's the other end of from the technology perspective. On top of that, I would say a developer should have a 360-degree view at the start, right? Like irrespective of the technology that you choose, right? We need to pay attention to the best practices, defined by the industry, right? We need to ensure that like we follow that in our coding. On top of lean coding, we also make sure that like we have clean code as well, right? So somebody like, comes in able to read your code, debug your code, like, understand it and take it to the next level. And also the various accelerator tools available, right? The ability of that particular platform, are we making full use of it, right? Like, so the shallow reading, right? That's something they should just avoid, right? Not just like, understanding technology, more hands-on practicing, all the tools that is available. That saves a lot of time for them, like, during their development stage. And also they also need to understand other supplement factors, like, what is DevOps, right? Why do though like the developer needn't have to do that, but they need to understand the importance of DevOps. They need to understand the importance of various delivery models that, in the industry, and that specifically the project being followed actually, right? So in my view, if you ask me, yes, the primary focus should be on technology, but on top of that, they should understand purpose, segment of audience, journey, and they also need to concentrate on their, readability, extensibility, reusability of their application, modularity of their application, how simple, lean, clean code that they do. That's what I would say to anybody who's starting their career.
Understood, Sandhya. That's a good advice to everybody who's starting off right now. And that's a lot to take in also, right? It's not one, number of different things that they would have to really piece together in their mind. So I'm going to turn to Deepthi, who really took us into the mind of a developer earlier in the piece today. So I'm going to turn it back to her to find out, so Deepthi, how would somebody keep themselves abreast of all of these evolutions, right? I know you kind of touched upon a little bit. Can you maybe delve on that question a little bit further? Talk to us about how could you keep yourself abreast? What else might be important? How do you learn more? So tell us about that, Deepthi. I'm very intrigued and want to carry on from the question that you kind of answered last time.
Yeah, absolutely. In real world, an application development does not just end with coding, understanding the user and the priorities of the user. The other important areas which they should focus on are improving their capability to debug the code, improving performance of the overall application, and using best practices like this Sendil mentioned. And they should how they can avoid the security vulnerabilities for your application. Now, circling back to what you have just asked, right? How do we keep abreast with the continuous technology evolution? The first step would be to take some time to learn. Learning is the key. That's the most important thing. We were just speaking some time back on how in the last decade we had, taken a huge leap from the older technologies. Now, most of the latest technologies release new features and updates every year. And in order to be up to date with these, we must squeeze in 20 to 30 minutes of time to learn how new tools work. For example, if you think that you would work better with an updated version of your project software, learn how to use it in your spare time. And use it to improve your workflow once you finally get accustomed to it. The next in line would be to keep up with the latest trends. Reading might not be in your list of priorities when there are work deadlines to meet, but keeping up with the latest programming trends will only help you. Learning new coding practices and tools means you will get better at creating code and can develop more innovative products. To make learning a more manageable practice, we can use readily available resources like Udemy, Pluralsight, and Stack Overflow. I think Chandan just mentioned that Cognizant provides it free of cost. That's very helpful for new developers. Better yet, within Cognizant, you can always ask experienced programmers on your team and across teams about the latest technologies and best practices. These conversations will keep you informed and help you make better use of your time.
Super. Thank you, Deepthi. That's great to hear as well. Now let's switch gears, right? Let's now start talking about some more interesting, exciting stuff. Let's really take a peek into the future, right? So I really want to understand where does, especially this whole experience industry or the interactive industry, where is that headed, right? So I want probably to look a little bit into the future, a year, couple of years from here. Take a look at what are the changes that are likely to come in. What are the different technologies that people have to keep an eye out for? Let's take a peek into the future, right? So Chandan, I'm going to ask you to look into the crystal ball and talk to us about what you feel might be the trends that we can expect to see.
Thank you so much, KP. Yes, this is a fantastic question. Actually, if you ask me, right, we would all like to predict the future, but we're not sure what's coming our way on a daily basis. But I can say that, yes, change is constant. We've seen it for the last decade. We've seen it change, I think, exponentially in the last 2-3 years as well. Having said that, when we started off, probably had HTML, basic markup, and some limited amount of dynamicity using JavaScript. Now, JavaScript, as of today, 2021, is a beast on its own, and it's become so popular that it's dominating the web world. In fact, one of the the popularity of programming languages ranks JavaScript at 3, and RedMonk, one of the rating scores for different programming languages, rates it at number 1. We've seen how JavaScript has evolved, and it's not only evolved, it's become very powerful. With TypeScript coming in, and then latest features coming in with ES5, ES6. Yes, I think 7 and 8, and the periodic releases coming in. I think we've seen a lot of change in it. I think I'm touching a little on JavaScript here, which is just being part of the interactive industry. The other things also which come by, like PHP and other different things which are helping build applications. But why I wanted to add more on this specific framework is make sure we understand how much we've evolved in an IT interactive industry, where we're trying to help and make sure our web applications are built in a way which is very different and very inventive. We're trying to take care of the power of the latest technologies and the networking speeds which have gone by, and as well also taking the power of how well we can program our applications to be faster, super fast than what we've done in our earlier days. So what was HTML, which is hypertext markup language, a language to build applications that doesn't even exist? It's probably done in a virtual DOM mode, which is one of the technologies which React and other frameworks in the same lines of React uses it. There is another line of thought with Angular, which takes care of web framework to build your whole application using the framework itself. It's got its own boundaries, but it defines and how you can build your application. One of them uses, it's both a single page, but one of them uses, it dominates the way using virtual DOM. Using virtual DOM, it dominates the world. The processing is done at the back end. Then the page comes in. Another one takes care of making sure whole compilation goes in an AOT format, ahead of time compilation, and then goes about building it. So there are different trends there, And having said that, now you're trying to tell us to little peek into the crystal ball. I think it's all coming at one place. That's what we are looking at it, and we see that both technologies or different things which are following different patterns are all coming to a place where we look at the trend evolve and come to something called as, say, progressive web apps. This is one of the trend which we've seen and customers ask as well. But we've seen 65% of online shopping happen on our mobile devices. So PWS is something which are new and big. PWA essentially is nothing but an application which gives you the power of a native feel in your mobile app. It's not a mobile app, but it gives you the feel of a mobile app. Okay, that's PWA for you. Then there are AI and bots, artificial intelligence and chat bots. We've seen that grown exponentially. Whenever we see something new come by, right, we see the power of AI come into picture, which solves your chat, and then it asks it keeps the user engaged, tries to get his data. Beauty of that is AI-based bots are 24/7. They try and solve problems like human. It's like human-like experience. They try and solve your problems. There is a lot of analytics which can go into it, which you can feel and see the trends of it. This is something which is definitely going to help drive business decisions, because based on user behavior, user trends, and users interaction with the application, try and make trends, and we try and see how best we can make them even better. Also seen a trend called AMPs, which are accelerated mobile pages. Now, in short, when we have blogs or news publishings and newspapers or whatever online, right? We don't want to take a lot of time to actually show them to the user, right? AMPs come into picture there. This is one of the latest web trend which is in place, where it speeds up your page performance by more than 4x times to what it is currently. So if you have a high-speed internet connection, let's suppose a 3G or a remote place, still can view your web pages, and they do this powerful back-end processing and storing and web optimization, so that your pages load faster than your regular HTMLs. This is another trend which is coming and taking shape. And I think there are also some open source plugins and libraries which are being built by Google and Twitter. These are things which are really, they've seen the power of it, and they're making sure they build these things and ensure it is reachable to the whole spectrum of audience who comes by. Already spoken about single page applications and state management, but this is definitely going to take a little bigger shape. We've seen state management as something where a web application stores the state in a common place, and then how best we can use it. Essentially, it ensures your web or your front end or your client is a little thicker, then the processing is a little faster and better, and your server is just there to provide you data. So it helps you all your interactions to be very seamless, and the communication to server is a little lesser, as in the request is singular, so that your processing done at your front end, so that the experience to the user is faster, better, and it is even immensely safe. That's how the state management happens by. Also seen a couple of more trends which are based on the cloud architecture, which is serverless applications. I think all major vendors like AWS, Google Cloud support it, making sure all our deployment happens there. Deploy once, apply everywhere, use it. They're taking away the model of regular servers coming into picture. The maintenance aspects also here by AWS and Google Cloud. So these are things which are trending, and these are some things which even we are investing as a company. And I think these are some things which I think will take more shape. And I think as future evolves, we'll see how best maybe AR and VR can also come into picture, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. So those are some of the areas which I think are very, very critical, and which I think are taking and positioning us as a different, our mindset to be very different in the web industry as well.
Fascinating, Chandan. Truly something that a lot to look forward to. Very quickly, right? Just talk to us about. So you mentioned a lot of things, but tell us, what is Cognizant doing in that foresight, research, prediction space, right? What kind of work are they doing? Just quickly tell us in terms of what kind of investments are they making, what are they doing with respect to studies or research or whatever. Just kind of. But how are you getting all these insights from?
Right. Yeah, I know this is a space which is so evolving, like we already discussed. And what we are doing we're trying to see this trend and to make sure this trend happens and successful for both, for us and for the company and for the customer, is that we're trying to understand the customer needs. Something which we're doing on a daily basis, not even not even something which we have envisioned in the late early a decade back. But at this point in time, we're looking at the trend of web industry go by. So we're trying to make sure we understand the customer, and that is very important. I think based on that understanding, we're trying to make sure we grow and nurture our young talent to be ready to the market. So there are a lot of case studies, like I already pointed out. There are case studies which we actually we publish them on a periodic basis. Now these are some things which help us get an insight of how well we're doing the current trend and how well we can explore and evolve to make sure we're better than what we were before, right? I think Cognizant also does a very important aspect of not only making sure we populate and present those case studies, but we also showcase the customer wins. Then this specific trend and this specific way of building has been approved, and this is a big win for us. This customer wins gives you a lot of confidence to say that approved technology is moving on and it is making sure we go to the next level, right? That is something which is happening by. I think foresight of how we look at it, right? We're also looking at not only omni-channel. I think this is something which is very important. We looked at basically a laptop or a desktop to be our fundamental way of building applications, and then we moved on to something called as omni-channel. Omni-channel is look at an application in 3 different modes. Let it be your laptop, let it be your desktop, let it be your mobile, let it be your tablet, different mobiles, different tablets. So that was something called omni-channel, right? We moved from there, we're trying to look at multi-channel, which is like not only your all 3 devices, we're also looking at, say, wearables, conversational devices, mobile extensions, say, watches, those kind of things. How do we build applications for those? How do we make sure we have this human interaction coming by? These are some things which we are trying to do some research and foresight and see how best we can grow in those areas as well, because the trend is so huge. So those are things which we are doing. And I want to point out our CEO here, Brian, who actually told us in our one of our discussions to the whole Cognizant that we are trying to focus on 4 different pillars, which is artificial intelligence, cloud, machine learning, and analytics. I think these are really some of the trends which are taking more shape, and these are some things which are impacting almost all industries, including the interactive. So these are things which we are trying to take more insight into, and I think we will grow in this space moving further as well, KP.
All right, thank you, Chandran. That was great. Let's now round it off, right? So there's a lot of ground that we covered in this particular talk that we just did. Let's quickly round it off and then talk about, any tips and advice, guidance to young developers out there. Senthil, let's start with you. Any quick advice to developers? Do you want to go?
Sure, KP. Not as advice, but I would probably just give a few cents from my end, actually, right? Like, so as we discussed in the last 25-30 minutes, right, the technology is evolving. Our focus is shifting not just from the experience part. We are also now more into AI, ML, NLPs, and getting into the different design patterns like cloud and other areas, irrespective of which stream of technology that the developer is going to choose, right? They have to concentrate on these 4 basic principles. 1, a lean, clean, modular coding, irrespective of the technology. We also need to understand the accelerators in the play within the organization, or within the industry, or within the market. We should just ensure that we have access to the kitchen sink, right? So that we don't reinvent the wheel again and again. That gives a jump start, actually. So having a knowledge around what is available, only if we do know what is available, we should be able to utilize it, actually. So, enhance your knowledge with respect to the accelerators and the kitchen sinks. Best practice. The next pillar is best practice, right? Like it could be just simple traditional RWD application, which we develop with just HTML, CSS, JavaScript with Bootstrap, or we go with the trending frameworks like Angular or React, or wherever it is, right? Like we should just ensure that we follow the best practice. That's the key. And the most vital, or I would even say that this is the key thing that every developer should keep in their mind, is have the appetite to learn. constantly, right? Because the industry evolves. The industry has a all the technologies have a shorter lifespan. Actually, we probably have to evolve every 6 months, right? Like, because all these tech stacks, right, coming with their upgrades. Like, we need to keep learning, like, what is coming up new, what are they improving, what is deprecated. We should know all of that, actually. So not just within that space, but we also have to look around, add additional skills, like with respect to DevOps, or like, go ahead and do a certification on Agile. So we just need to know, the technology pillar. On top of that, like, we also need to understand the functional space. So my advice is just concentrate on the basics at the start of your career. If you're in mid of your career, please see how you can enhance and keep reading.
All right, a safe guidance from you, Senthil. Any quick words, Chandan or Deepti? Do you want to have a couple of good shot at any tips to people out there?
KB. So what I would like to add here is similar to what Senthil had mentioned, right? So we should never hesitate to try the new technologies or features. As a fresher, we might have some inhibition initially to try something new. But the point is that until we try something out, we will be unable to understand its capabilities and features it provides. And then based on its features, we can, develop a better application of it. We can have a very good code. And definitely having a holistic view is a must, because you understand in the long run where we fit in as a developer. It is very important. Just coding might seem simple, but until you understand where you actually fit in the entire end-to-end application, you can actually provide a better code. So that's what I would like to add.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your experiences. I mean, I felt like, I learned a bit even through this particular exercise that we just did. And thanks, everybody, for listening as well. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'm looking forward to bringing a lot more insights from the developer community in Cognizant. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Karthik, Chandan, Dipti, and Senthil. It was a pleasure to listen to all of you. Listeners, hope you had fun listening to our eminent speakers in this special episode. Stay tuned to TechGig for all the tech updates and happenings. Time to sign off. See you in the next episode super soon.